Ultimate Chicken Horse was released nearly 9 years ago. A silly party game for most, but for a select group of people within the core community, these last 9 years have served as a battlefield, where many great players have come to prove their worth. We've had our ups and downs, but now, after all this time, competitive UCH is seeing the most active season ever. In celebration of this, and the players who put in the time and effort to make the game what it is, I've gathered top players and community organizers to vote on who the top 15 players are. I've been around for longer than just about anyone, and I can say without a doubt that this is the strongest group of players that we've ever seen. Before we get into our top 15, I'd like to quickly give an honorable mention to Syndrome Dead Soul, Kanai, and Damu. It was a close battle for the 15th place, but in the end, these 3 players just narrowly missed out. With that being said, let's get into the top 15. Jaden has been around for a long time. After joining during the UCS era, he quickly became a solid player, but never took that step to reach the top level. He left the game for a while, but after coming back early on this season, Jaden has shocked everyone with what he's capable of. Despite never officially being ranked, Jaden managed to get wins on Madman, Syndrome Dead Soul, strong placements, and nearly managed to win a set over Bojack in UCH CS 11. It's great seeing players like Jaden shine after all this time and make it into the top 15 as a fitting reward. When I think of dedication and what it means in this game, the first person that comes to mind is Flop. Flop has been around the scene for a couple years now, but he always struggled to break out and really compete against the high-level players. That is, until recently. This has been the most active season competitive UCH has ever had, and even still, Flop managed to be one of only 3 people who entered every event in the season. He's constantly been grinding, and the payoff is clear. With multiple top 8 finishes, a 13th place finish at Ignition, and wins over Shup and Agirmi, Flop has finally taken that big step forward to secure his 14th place ranking. I've been around in the UCH community for just over 6 years now. I've hosted events, competed, and played for thousands of hours. I know everyone and everything when it comes to this game. So imagine my surprise when somebody I've never heard of comes out of nowhere and finishes 9th out of 85 in the biggest event the game has ever seen. Not only did Fish do all that, but he continued to get good wins and strong placements, proving that his performance in Ignition wasn't a one-time thing. The only thing harder than pronouncing his name is managing to beat him in tournament, which Fish has proven through wins over Shup, Kanai, Shadow Curb, and a dominant 3-0 head-to-head over Flop, comfortably earning Fish his place as the 13th best player in the world. Ponel has had a difficult season. Whether it be technical difficulties forcing her to DQ from Ignition, or being faced with difficult matchups in all the events that she's entered, Ponel has been forced to overcome these setbacks in order to showcase what she's capable of time and time again. With 2 top 5 finishes and a win over Palia, Ponel is the first player in line knocking at the door of the highest level of play. Despite being ranked 12th, I firmly believe that Ponel is capable of winning a large event over top players, and I'm excited to see what she can do next season. Coming in at number 11, we've got Nell. Everybody loves an underdog story. David and Goliath, Rocky, the Karate Kid, something about the little guy coming out on top resonates with us, so it comes to me as no surprise that Nell, who is historically great at making big upsets, has managed to secure such an impressive ranking this season. Nell is one of the 3 players who entered every event this season, and in that time, the Titan Slayer herself has managed to secure wins on Raito, Bojack, and Marphy with strong placements throughout. Despite narrowly missing out on the top 10, believe me when I say there isn't a player alive who doesn't start sweating when they see they have to play against Nell. This season, we saw a tight race between 4 or 5 players to make it into the top 10. Going into the last two tournaments, the top 9 felt fairly solidified, but it was unclear who was going to secure that final spot in the top 10. With so much uncertainty in the air, Schupp put it all on the table with a 3rd place finish in UCHCS 12, becoming the only player outside the top 5 to get a win on Morphin. Beyond this, he has another top win, having beaten Madman, and has gotten consistently good placements this season. I believe Schupp is one of the next players who's going to break into the top level of play, and finishing top 10 is only the beginning of what he has in store for us. If I had to pick the biggest upset in the history of UCH, two things come to mind. Selly taking down Kiata in BCS, and Marphy taking down Palia in Ignition. Selly taking down Kiata was a big deal, but Marphy was the 15th seed when he beat Palia, who was seeded 2nd. Not only did Marphy win such a historic set, he nearly took down Morphin after, and still finished strong in the losers bracket, coming in 5th place. If that wasn't enough, Marphy proved to the world that it wasn't a fluke by finishing 3rd just weeks later in Grand Swiss 2. Marphy has been around for years. He's always been good, but someone breaking out into the top level so suddenly after all this time is unheard of. I've seen a lot of unique players, but I can say truthfully that Marphy is one of one. There are 2 players in the history of UCH that have beaten Kiata twice. I doubt I need to tell you who the first is, but the second is Selly. For years, Selly has been a top level threat. While not necessarily having the consistency to establish themselves within the pinnacle of play, there hasn't been a single point since their come up where Selly was not capable of winning a tournament. While most top players win through sheer mechanical capability, Selly is one of the few players who has mastered the tactical side of the game through their building. Not to say that Selly lacks in mechanical skill, but I don't think it would be outrageous to say that Selly is the most skilled builder that the game has ever seen. With a win over Bojack, a win over Kiata, a top 3 finish in UCHCS 11, and a top 5 finish in Ignition, Selly is still a force to be reckoned with, and certainly one who is deserving of being ranked 8th in the world. Madman is a confusing player within the annals of this game's history. It's obvious that he has technical capability in the same league as, if not beyond, the top players. One of the best speedrunners to ever touch the game and comparably skilled in party mode, yet he's never managed to have a breakout performance and really show people what he's capable of. That changed this season, when Madman put those skills to work. Madman is known for his work making tool-assisted speedruns of the game, and at times, this season, he looked like a taskbot himself. He defeated Raito, the number 1 seed, in a huge upset victory in Ignition, and he's placed top 5 in every event that he's entered. Even with such a good performance this season, it's still clear that Madman is capable of so much more. But for now, he can rest easy knowing that he's secured himself as the 7th best player in the world. For years now, Ember has taken it upon herself to carry the game, not only through her gameplay, but through the tournaments that she hosts as well. In spite of this tireless effort to keep the game going, Ember managed to put on a show for us this season. Starting off strong, securing a tournament win over Palia in the Halloween LFT, Ember kept it up with a top 8 finish in Ignition and a top 5 finish in Grand Swiss 3. She has proven herself a pillar of consistency with no losses to any player outside the top 5. It was a tight race in the voting between her and our next player, but Ember has made it abundantly clear that she is a top player who can beat anyone in the world on the right day. After stepping away from the competitive side of the game years ago, Bojack made his grand return this season to prove once again that the old heads can still keep up. With a lowest placement of 4th and wins on Kreutz, Ember, Madman, and an even record with Morphin, Bojack has shown that he's still got it, and is deserving of this 5th place ranking. Palia shocked the world with her performance in Ignition. After losing to Marphy early on in one of the biggest upset victories of all time, Palia responded in full force with the best losers run that we've ever seen, winning 6 consecutive sets against top 15 players, with 4 of those opponents being in the top 10. The unstoppable force met its end when facing the immovable object that is Morphin, but after such an early defeat, managing to place 3rd in the largest UCH tournament ever is nothing short of impressive. Palia is the player who defined top-level UCH for the past 3 years, so it comes as no surprise to me that even in an off-season for her, she finishes in the top 4. Raito's season has been a story of perseverance and succeeding despite the odds. Living in Japan, competing in UCH tournaments that almost exclusively cater to North American time zones has proven difficult, but that hasn't stopped Raito from showing that he's one of the best players alive. Despite his 3rd place ranking, Raito has a winning record over the rank 1 and the rank 2 players this season. The only thing holding Raito back is his upset losses versus Palia, Madman, and Nell. Had a couple things gone differently, Raito could have easily finished this season as the rank 1 player, and going forward, Raito still remains one of the favorites for any tournament that he enters. I'm sure I speak for the whole community when I say, I hope Raito gets the opportunity to truly shine in a tournament where he isn't forced to play through the night until the sun rises. But in spite of facing such difficulties, Raito doesn't disappoint with his 3rd place ranking. Kreutz is living proof that the grind pays off. In just 1 year, Kreutz went from being a mid-level player to being one of the best in the world. Anytime I check to see who's online, I'm shocked when Kreutz's name isn't there. Through that grind, Kreutz has become Mr. Consistency. Despite entering more than half the events this season, Kreutz's worst performance was a 3rd place finish, with every other placement being 2nd. His average placement was 2.25, better than anyone else in the world, rank 1 included. He didn't manage to get his big win, but for a grinder like Kreutz, it's only a matter of time. I personally have had the pleasure of seeing Kreutz's growth, and I can tell you without a doubt that he will be one of the players who defines this era of UCH. Finally, we have our new rank 1. In UCH, there is a rare type of player. The type of player who instills fear. The type of player who gives you a unique feeling of dread that tells you that there's not one single thing that you can do to prevent them from making it to the finish. This is the defining sensation that to me made players like Coldheart and Kiata stand out. And having played in both eras, I can decisively tell you that Morphin is no different. For years now, Morphin has been a consistent tournament threat, but he's never managed to break through past that level in order to be a clear rank 1 contender. With his shaky start to the season, placing 5th in the Halloween LFT and 7th at UCHCS 11, it was looking like this season would be no different. But something seemed to click for Morphin, because after being sent to the losers bracket in Ignition, Morphin came back with a vengeance, defeating Palia and Kreutz twice in a row to win it all. Since then, Morphin has been on a tear, winning Ignition, Grand Swiss 2, UCHCS 12, and Grand Swiss 3. With 4 consecutive tournament wins to finish the season, it makes sense why Morphin was voted the clear number 1 player. That does it for our top 15, but I want to take a quick moment to say something. For a while now, I would have told you that the golden age of UCH ended years ago when Coldheart and Kiata retired. Never in my life have I been so happy to be wrong, because the golden age is now. There has never been a better time to get into the game, and if you think that this season is the end of it, you couldn't be more wrong. Congratulations to all the players who got ranked, and keep grinding, because the next rankings are going to be even better.